Thank you so much. So today I'm Vishwas Rao. I'm from Argonne National Laboratory, and today I'll be talking about data-driven deep learning emulators for geophysical forecasting. First of all, I want to acknowledge my collaborators, Varuni Katti Shastri, Romit Maulik. Varuni is going to join Argonne soon. Romit is my colleague. Bethany, Ashwin, and Rao Kotamarti, all are my colleagues at Argonne National Laboratory. And I also want to acknowledge the funding by US Department of Energy. Okay. So the motivation for time series forecasting comes from multiple applications. So the time series forecasting has significant implications for cost-effective energy policy, infrastructure development, and downstream economic consequences. Of late, there has been a huge push towards renewable energy. So it's very important to have a good forecast of wind speeds and temperature, air temperature forecast to have a reliable energy policy. So the problem with existing forecasting methods, they mostly rely on solving PDEs and they use large computing resources. And moreover, there is a high degree of uncertainty in these forecasts, in the sense that there are all kinds of model errors which creep into the forecast, and they're not quite reliable. So hence, it's important to develop new methods to improve the forecast, so that the forecast become more reliable and the uncertainty around the forecast reduces considerably. So recent advent of machine learning methods have provided a great alternative to produce forecasts which have comparable accuracy with the PDE based methods, but with much lower computational costs. So in this talk, mostly we'll be demonstrating some of the data-driven methods for short-term and long-term forecasts of maximum temperatures, and we compare the performance over different supervised machine learning-based time series methods. So we will further enhance the forecast using some of the probabilistic machine learning, specifically using Gaussian processes to correct the errors in the forecast. So the idea here is that we perform forecasts on a low dimensional affine subspace of the temperature on which a reduced system is involved. So basically the idea is that we reduce the dimension of the field using simple model reduction methods, and then we'll evolve the coefficients of these bases so that you'll be solving the evolution is on a low dimensional subspace and it's much cheaper. First of all, I'll talk a little bit about the data set. So this is called the DayMet version 3 data set. This provides the average annual maximum temperature. So with the spatial resolution of 1 by 1 kilometer, and the temporal resolution is 1 calendar day. So this is actually provided by Oak Ridge National Laboratory. So the data set is across the North American region, and the number of grid points is about 200,000 grid points. So for our training purposes, what we do is we use the data set from 2014 and 2015. So that gives us 730 data points to train with. For validation purposes, we use the 2016 data, and then finally we test our methods on the 2017 data. So the idea here is that we perform a POD, proper orthogonal decomposition, which is basically similar to principal component analysis, or you can also call it as SVD, where each row basically or each column is a snapshot of the temperature across all the grid points, and K is the number of temporal observations. So in the case of training data, you will end up with having 730 observations, and each column is going to be of the size of the grid size, which is about 200K. So then we reduce the size of the problem by doing SVD. So the goal is to construct an orthogonal basis such that the linear subspace can efficiently represent the spatial and temporal dynamics of the maximum temperature. So the pod basis computed on the snapshot data through truncated SVD with 5 modes approximately captures 92% of the energy. But the problem with advection dominated systems is that you will end up needing a large number of bases need to be retained to faithfully represent the flow field. Therefore, it is important to devise creative strategies so as to preserve the effects of the truncated scales on the resolved ones. So the model preprocessing we do here is called min-max preprocessing across each mode on the coefficient matrix of the training data. So the primary mode, that is, we have 5 modes. This mode 1, the first mode, has characteristics of a multimodal distribution and also has a high degree of correlation. The secondary modes, the modes 2, 3, 4, 5, basically they are closer to Gaussian distribution, or they have characteristics of a Gaussian distribution. So the pre-processed coefficient matrix is the input to the neural network model. So the idea is that, so basically when we do a POD, so these POD bases have coefficients that has to be computed to evolve it over a period of time. So the coefficient evolves with time. So we use the neural network models to actually evaluate the coefficients. So the time series data set is transformed as a supervised learning problem by the sliding window walk forward method. And we perform a multivariate, multi-step forecasting. So the idea is that we use multiple time steps to forecast the coefficients of the basis, which we then use to actually evaluate the actual temperature or the maximum temperature. So this shows the model. So we use 2 types of models. One of them is with feedback and without, and the other one is without feedback. So the with feedback resembles the autoregressive case in the sense that the output at time tn is a convolution of inputs from t0 to tn minus 1. In some sense, it's a Markov process. Whereas for the non-autoregressive, it is the non-autoregressive process. What we do is we use the data from let's say we use a window length of 7. So we use 7 samples here. I hope you guys can see my cursor.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. So we have a window length of 7. So we use this to forecast 7 time steps ahead. And when we get the new data, we use that to again further forecast 7 time steps. So this is called the without feedback, or it's also called non-autoregressive process. This is useful in short-term forecasting. The autoregressive process, however, we use the input sample 1, and that gives an output sample. And the output sample note here is the input sample 2. So basically, it's a regressive process. So this is more useful in producing the long-term forecast. So the reason why I say this is that because we use the output of the model as the input at the next step, and we don't need any fresh data, this can be used as a long-term forecasting tool. However, as you can imagine, this comes with its own deficiencies, or the problem is that these as you do the autoregressive model, the forecast errors keep accumulating and they tend to blow up. So we need to devise ways to actually keep the forecast errors under check. So we're going to discuss that soon. So here here are some of the details regarding the model. Sliding interval is 1, window length is 7, and we use a batch size of 32, and the learning rate is 10 to the minus 4, and we use the Adam optimizer. This is the details regarding the machine learning model. So, sorry, like I said, because if we use the autoregressive case, which is with feedback, the errors tend to get accumulated. So we have to devise creative ways to keep the errors in check. So what we do is actually we use an error correction model. So we fit the error. So since we have a lot of training data points, we fit the error using an error correction model. The error correction model is a probabilistic error correction model. Basically, we use a Gaussian process regression to fit the error correction model, and then based on the predicted coefficients in the testing phase, we use this error correction model to add or correct the error in the final predicted coefficient. So this is a two-step process. First step basically has a neural network forecasting model, and the predicted coefficients is then passed through an error correction model, and then we finally get the final predicted coefficients. So we use multiple neural network models. We use LSTM, BiLSTM, encoder decoder, and encoder decoder LSTM, and then 1D convolution. We use temporal convolution networks and also stacked TCNs. So for the error correction model, we use the GPR Gaussian process regression based error correction model, and we use a simple squared exponential kernel to do the error correction. So the predicted coefficient is going to be comes from the neural network model plus the predicted error from the error correction model. So that's what gives us the final predicted coefficients, which then have to be multiplied with the basis to obtain the temperature. So as I mentioned before, the kernel which we use for the Gaussian process regression is the simple squared exponential kernel. Now let's look at some results. So this is without feedback. So this is for short-term forecasting. So like you see, sorry about that. So like you see, so this basically, let me explain this figure a little bit. So this is like a histogram. The histogram says how many. So the grid point, the number of grid points is about 200,000. So this histogram gives us gives us the frequency of each error. So for example, if you look at the error close to 0.00, the frequency of this is 60, as in there are 60 data points in the grid which have very accurate forecast. And if you go to the right, so for example, in this case, in the second figure here, there are about, I don't know, maybe less than 10 data points which have 0.05 error. So mostly, so this gives a, in some sense, this is not a mean square. Instead of just using a simple mean square error estimate, what we do is we count the number of times each error occurs in the grid point and plot it as a histogram. So this is, we just demonstrate the mode 0, mode 1, and mode 2, and mode 3. So mode 0 is the dominant mode. So having good accuracy in mode 0 is very important. And as you can see, mode 0 is the most of the error is concentrated close to 0, and also the standard deviation or the spread of the errors is pretty less, in the sense that it is less than 0.05. This is fairly accurate for without feedback. The good thing is that all the methods have comparable errors, in the sense that all the methods perform equally well. But in terms of training times, I think LSTM based architectures and 1D convolution models are fastest to train, and hence probably is an efficient means to use it for problems where we need short-term forecast. Next, we look at numerical results with forecast. This is a long-term forecast. So if you look at this, so we have multiple models here. I'm sorry, the font is pretty small here, but we present results with BiLSTM, LSTM, encoder decoder, 1D convolution, TCN, and stacked TCN. So mode 1, mode 2, mode 3, almost all the errors are similar. So and also however, in the case of mode 0, you see the error differs quite a bit, and since mode 0 is the dominant mode, we need to carefully look at the mode 0 errors. So the TCN based models seem to have a higher standard deviation, in the sense that they have a larger spread. And by using an error correction model, if you see here, before and after error correction, the standard deviation reduces significantly, both in the case of all the modes. In case of mode 1, mode 2, mode 3, it's fairly obvious that the standard deviation is reducing. In case of mode 0 as well, the spread is reducing significantly after using the error correction model. So GPR based error correction model considerably reduces the neural network model errors for long-term forecast. So hence this is amenable for long-term forecast. So this is the final prediction. Actually, this is a one-step prediction. So this is BiLSTM. This is just one-step prediction, and BiLSTM plus GPR. So we use an error correction. As you can see, there are so in these regions, especially in these regions, the error reduced significantly by adding a one-step correction. And this is BiLSTM with feedback. Again, if you see in this region, especially in these regions, you see a significant reduction of error because of adding an error correction model. With this, I'll just summarize my talk. We have presented multiple data-driven approaches for time series forecasting in geophysical applications, specifically temperature, maximum temperature, and use DayMet data to demonstrate our methods. We combine dimensionality reduction and system evolution to forecast. We also present a probabilistic error correction model to enrich the forecast. And with this, I'll be happy to take any questions.